You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, we have been, of course, having numerous candidates who are running for mayor of New York City on the show. That is going to be coming up real soon, next month. Joining us right now is Isaac Wright, Jr., who's running for mayor. Isaac, glad to have you here. Look at the latest polls. You look at who's leading, Eric Adams, Andrew Yang. How are you going to make the case to vault to the top of the leaderboard?
Well, you know, Roland, and thank you for having me. One of the things that we've learned about polls in recent history is that they've slowly, over time, have gotten more and more out of touch with the public. Of course, you know, what any candidate is dealing with in modern times is, actually for a very long time, is the issue of money. There is a sense that media, they want to follow the money. There is a sense in politics that the person with the most money is the guy that you want to jump on the bandwagon with, but that's not the sense of the people, and I think what's happening with politics today, and I was just watching the segment on Donald Trump, is that there was insurrection, but the ultimate power is in the people, and that's why Joe Biden is president, because ultimately the power in this country is in the people, and I think it's the same thing that's happening now in New York City. I think the power in New York City is not in the money. The power is in the people. And I think the people are going to speak loud and clear come June 22nd. So how are you going to connect with them? What are you saying to voters why they should pick you? Well, there's a number of reasons. Well, one of the things that is very clear with voters is you got to look at, how have your lives changed election after election after election? What is these leaders have done? What have they done election after election that have changed your lives? What promises that they've made that was really directed at you that they've actually kept? There's a number of policy issues that I have from new jobs for young entrepreneurs, kids coming out of high school that may not want to go to college but have these great ideas. And they want to start their new businesses. The city's going to get together. They're going to partner with them, and they're going to provide funding so these young kids can start businesses. There's public works programs in New York City. The infrastructure in New York City has been failing for a very long time, and I think billions of dollars need to be thrown into public work program that will create thousands of jobs. There's issues with New York City being, and it's always been that way. New York City is the richest city in the world. There's more billionaires that live in New York City than anywhere else in the world. And so there has to be a time when New York City looks at the ingredients it has, brings these ingredients together to help bring New York City back on its feet for the good of the people of New York City. And I think a lot of these things that's happening in New York City right now, a lot of the promises that the candidates have been made are just promises that have been repackaged from promises of old. If you look at what Einstein said, and I think is very significant here, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But what specifically is your agenda? What specifically are you running on to say this is why you should elect me? What issues? I have three marquee issues. One is housing. And if you look at New York City, New York City has the biggest housing population in the country. NYCHA houses over 500,000 residences. And if you look at that from a population standpoint, New York City is bigger than the city of Atlanta, the city of Miami, the city of Oakland, California. Think about that for a second. Think about driving into a city where no one owns their own home. And I think NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, they've been serial landlords for several decades. People are born in these complexes and they die in these complexes. And one of the marquee issues for me is to change NYCHA, to convert NYCHA from a serial landlord to a conduit for home ownership. I think every one of these individuals in these low-income housing should have the option of buying their own home, should have the option of being able to leverage that home so that they can send their kids to college, so that they can start their own new businesses, so that they can probably sell out and find a better place to live. But at some point, New York City has to change that diagram. They have to empower the people that have been encircled in.
So housing is one issue, other two.
Excuse me?
You said housing is one, other two issues.
Housing is one. The other issue, obviously, is criminal justice reform. As you know, there's been a serious problem across the country with criminal justice, with policing, with the militarization of police. It's something that has been reaching its apex. It's been bubbling for decades, especially in the Black and brown communities. And it's reached its apex because of social media. New York City has a problem with that. And I think one of the things that needs to happen is that there needs to be a disconnect that needs to be torn down, and a reconnect between what the community sees in the police and what the police sees in themselves. And I think that's been a failure of mayors in the past. And one of the things, and my background speaks for itself. One of the things that is at the forefront of my background is my relationship with law enforcement. I believe one of the things that has to happen, and that's one of my marquee issues, is to bring law enforcement and the community together, create New York City NYPD as a blueprint for what it means to protect and serve. And that's one of the things that I'm going to do.
So criminal justice is number two. The last issue. What's number three?
Number three is a very, very serious issue, and that's something that's going to be coming soon. Right now, because of COVID, you have tens of thousands of people who are going to be facing eviction, who are going to be facing foreclosure, and something has to happen. We've been pushing that ball down the road with moratoriums, but at some point, the banks and the landlords are going to call on that money that's being owed, and we're going to run into a very significant housing crisis in New York City. One of the things that I propose that is a marquee issue is a forgiveness program, a program where everybody that's been affected by COVID, because of COVID, they're in eviction, they're behind in their rent, or they're in foreclosure, to enter them into a forgiveness program ran by the city. And that program will not only forgive that back debt, but allow them to start anew and also make the landlords and the mortgage companies whole.
All right, then. Isaac Wright, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. For many folks who watched the show For Life on ABC that was recently canceled, that inspiration for that TV show is based upon your life, getting your law degree while you were in prison. And so we certainly good luck in your race for the New York City mayor.
Thank you very much, Roland.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.